And when you're confident in yourself, you never have to prove it to anyone. It's one of my favorite things in talking to you, Otis, and talking to the military. It's just like there's this incredible calm and confidence where you're not trying to prove yourself to anyone. And it's a remarkable aspect of.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And I'm going to jump right into it because I had to stop the juicer in the green room because, folks, we're recording this shortly after the Ohio State-Michigan football game. And
rivalry weekend.
Huh? Rivalry weekend. Yeah. We won't talk about the Aggies. But what we were talking about is a failure of leadership post-game. You could call it pre-game. I mean, I had some discussions with a client this morning about the lead up to it and the lack of leadership there. And then there's some larger problems. There was a failure of leadership. And folks, you don't know what I'm talking about. Just to bring you up to speed, those of you who don't watch college football because you live in Australia and you only watch Australian rules.
Shout out to Phil.
Yeah, Phil. There you go. That's for you. It's rivalry weekend, the last weekend in November. And Ohio State, a very, very big school in Ohio, big university, 100,000 freaking people and some ridiculous thing like that. It's giant. Pot calling kill a black ear as an Aggie. And then there's Michigan, Big Blue, University of Michigan, and they are and have been rivalries for a long time. And at the end of the game, after Michigan whooped Ohio State, like a redheaded stepchild. That's probably not politically correct anymore. But anyway.
You got a redheaded regular child, so.
Yeah.
It is on this podcast.
Yeah, there you go. If you're redheaded and a stepchild, you didn't appreciate that, let me know.
If that's what takes us down, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, geez, we're going deep today.
Yes, we are.
The Michigan went to plant their big M flag in the middle of the Ohio State University football stadium on their field, and the players took offense to it, and it was a downright street brawl that was happening. Yes. And our good friend and guest for today, Alex, we were talking about that just before the show, and I want to hear, because you mentioned it. You mentioned that is part of the reason, not the fight.
Yes,
that is part of the reason and validation of your business, Fuel Inc., and how Fuel Inc. Can make an impact. So I'd love to just right off the bat dive into that, man.
Yeah. So look, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for speaking directly. And we're sorry, redheaded stepchildren. You happen to be part of a moral lesson or a phrase or a thing that people used for a very long time. So don't get mad at us. We are the messengers. We are not the creators of that. So it actually makes me laugh about this week, this Thanksgiving. A bunch of people were cooking chicken instead of turkeys. I started cracking up because chickens were like this. I love this holiday. Got nothing. Wait, what? Why? Hey, what's happening? Where are we going?
We were safe.
Yeah, we thought we were safe. And so, thank you for having me on. Excited to have this conversation. Excited to speak candid and frankly here. What we've seen from, you mentioned it earlier, Cam, about social media. This was in the green room. This was the stuff we were kind of getting into. And, there's something beautiful about social media. There really is. It's changing worlds. It's changing countries. It's changing political opinions in countries that were immovable objects for a very long time, because people are like, oh, that's allowed, that's possible. Curiosity creates questions, and questions creates change. And so one of the other things that happens with social media, however, is all the negativity that comes from it, and all the shame and comparison and unreasonable expectations that get set. And so, you asked Cam, could social media have had something to do with that planting of the flag and the reaction, right? Maybe, right? Maybe, right? That's very possible, because as you mentioned, you see somebody like Baker Mayfield do that, and that's a star to you now. That's a hero, and you're just acting on your natural instincts, right? It was just an instinct. It was exciting. You were just excited, and the result was, by the way, also instinct. It was the same thing, right? It was also instinct. And so Fuel, being the world first performance as a service platform, which talks about, it's a learning platform that's designed to help you do the thing you learned rather than say you understand the thing you learned. We're very much inspired by the military, very much inspired by professional sports, because those two areas have perfected performance and culture. Not anyone can just join the military and they're like, here you go, thanks for joining. All you have to do is sign that piece of paper, nothing else to do. No, it's the exact opposite, right? It's the exact opposite of that. And so Fuel is a performance platform, and how's it combating what social media and other sources like that are giving us, the good and the bad. We want to put a little bit more good in the world. And so Fuel is built and designed to be as binge-worthy as Netflix, right? So you're excited to watch it, you want to watch it, but every lesson is packed with positivity. Every single one of them. There's a reason for that. And you might appreciate this. When you plant an apple tree, you cannot expect an orange to grow. Okay? We planted an apple tree and we wanted apples to grow. We started by asking every instructor who's joining Fuel, which, by the way, world-renowned instructors, the very first thing to join Fuel as an instructor is a giver's heart. You have to have wisdom. You want to give. Number one, that's this, right? You plant that seed from the start. And what happens is when things grow, you get that within those lessons. The number two thing was you have to have, number one is giver's heart. You want to give your wisdom away. Number two, content that actually works and performs. You might have a beautiful heart, but your content nobody uses. It doesn't work. There's no proof. It's great. You're a great person. However, it's not proven. You've been able to do it. Your friends have been able to do it. But nobody else has been able to take your content and turn it into something. And so Fuel is designed like this really fun and engaging platform that is constantly delivering growth through micro lessons. Everything is micro lessons. By the way, anyone that's listening, and you too, go do your research on micro learning. I could tell you stats. So, we know that social media creates these unreasonable expectations and excites us and wants us to do, we find ourselves wanting to do things that might be unreasonable, but we feel like we have to, right? We need to stand up and we need to prove ourselves. That's the comparison that happens on social media. It's always comparison. You watch and you compare yourself to what you're seeing, and either you're better, doesn't help. I'm better than this, or you're worse. That's not. That's all opinion, right? And so, with something like Fuel, the goal of Fuel is people becoming the best version of themselves for themselves. And so when people have some of that confidence, to your question, how could Fuel have maybe helped avoid some of what happened or impact a generation to maybe act differently, and leadership to maybe support their team a little differently? When you're confident in yourself, you don't have to prove yourself, right? That flag planting in the middle of that's check me out. I'm better than you, right? Look at me. I'm important. And the person and people that ran over and started the fight, they were like, no, you're not. We're better than you. And here we go. But when you're confident in yourself, you never have to prove it to anyone. It's one of my favorite things in talking to you, Otis, and talking to the military. It's just like there's this incredible calm and confidence where you're not trying to prove yourself to anyone. And it's a remarkable aspect of.
Yeah, I think
that type of leadership.
I think so much of what you're talking about there, that comparison aspect, I think is interesting. What's coming to mind a lot is actually I want to say it was Max Holloway recently in the UFC. He got knocked out, and he was talking about it, and he's like, "Look, I'm the highlight reel now. I was the highlight reel 6 months ago in a good way." And I think there's this really funny thing that happens with social media where we feel this projection of things, and because of that, we think things are so much bigger than they are. And what I'm talking about is Max Holloway in that interview. He was talking about it. He's like, "It's the fight game, though. This is the same thing. I've been knocked out. Like, actually, he hasn't been knocked out much. He's a freaking good fighter. But he's like, dude, I've been doing this my whole life. I was street fighting. You grew up in Hawaii, fighting with people all the time. And there's this idea that then because the camera's on you, now you have to do something. Now I have to say something. Like, Alex, look, I love Ohio State as much as the next guy. And I wouldn't do anything to go fight those guys from Michigan, but there's cameras on us. And everyone's watching. Right. And I'm going to be the one, that knockout. I'm going to be the one that looks bad on social media. And when you start to view it through that lens, it really warps your perspective. Because what really matters is what's in front of you. I'll give it one more example. It's really coming to my personal one. This past season playing UCLA with rugby, we lost that game. There was a highlight that went a little, as viral as American college rugby clips go, of them scoring this freaking pretty sick 60-meter try on us. Intercept try, Data, you probably remember it. It's intercept try, makes us look pretty stupid. And I was like, gosh, that makes me feel mad. And we could have worked hard on all this. So it's like, well, I should have felt that way about losing the game. Why do I feel that way about the idea that people are watching us lose rather than just losing the game itself? That's the thing that's really important there. And so I'd love to throw that back to you, Alex, of how do you think what do you think is that shift? And, fuel can help in it, but what is that shift that people make from the projection aspect to just the internal?
What a beautiful analogy and beautiful comparison that you just gave, that you were more offended by the video of one play than the outcome of the entire game.
Yep.
And it had to do with cameras. It had to do with forget about cameras. It's not even about the cameras. It's about the eyes behind those cameras, behind the screens. So it's not even about that. It's about what people are going to watch. And we talked about this. The pain in social media is the comparison, right? It's the comparison. And so the only reason that affects anyone is what are other people going to think, comparison, right? And then it becomes from comparison to shame. Oh my gosh. How will I be seen now? Well, no more thinking of no more comparison. Now it's shame. And so I think that's what you're seeing. We cut the cord from cable TV. I think you're going to start, and it's already happening. You're going to start seeing more and more people pull away from the social media part that is toxic.
Could you? There's another piece there actually talking about the comparison. It makes me think of a lot of philosophies, but we talk a lot of stoicism here. The idea of it's like to get rid of your fears, you have to get rid of your wants, right? That they're kind of the positive and the negative are kind of two sides of the same coin there. Could you talk some about how fuel and that kind of different approach to it helps to build what I would call like a more sustainable positive that then you don't get that negative side of it as much because it's, like we said, it's internal, it's not comparison.
Yes. Well, I mean, so the beauty of and the power of fuel is stacked up. So number one, what's interesting is for teams, there's individuals that can use fuel and there's teams that can use fuel. Again, using fuel that's built on the lessons of what's working in humanity today, right? Short form content delivered in a way that we like to receive it. So number one is access. That's a very important. It's like, well, wait a second. YouTube, I have access. I have access to all of these other things that exist out there. I have news on my phone. I have social media. People are posting things all the time. So all of the things I just mentioned, that's just information. That's good. But access to performance training, no, that's limited. That costs a lot of money usually. Okay. So number one thing that makes fuel powerful in this world that we live in today is access to this, to actually be able to be anywhere, right? And go, okay, I have access to my performance improvement gym. Second thing is the type of people, okay? We talked about this. Every single lesson, every single one of them is weaved in with positivity. You can do it. You are capable. Think about what you want for you. What brought you here? What would you like to see change in your life? How are you going to go about it? Here's a tool to help you go about it. Every course and every lesson, they're talking to one person. It's not an all for all. It's all the instructors for one you. That's it. So it's very important as well that it's designed to speak to you individually, for you to personally hear you go in a direction that you want to go, not what somebody else asked you, right? A lot of training is like, my boss told me I have to.
Yep.
That's different than, this is something I want for me. And scientifically speaking, you cannot retain the things you don't actually want, right? That you're forced to sit in, right? That you're forced to do. And by the way, let me be clear. I don't think we should have a society of rule breakers. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there is a change, an evolution, okay? And part of that evolution is having access to things that drive you. I'm going to give an example. One example, maybe two, because Otis, you're from the military with your background. I think this is going to be great. If I joined the Army, because you were in Special Forces, right?
Yep.
I couldn't. So I joined the Army. Can I just go right from signing up to be in Special Forces? Just like, hey, I put a check mark, say I want to be in that, and I'm in. Can I just check a box and I'm on your team?
No, you gotta take a walk or two and do a couple other things.
You got to do a couple other things. Okay. Here's what's interesting. The military also doesn't go and look at the line of people that just joined. They all just joined. They're all standing, young cadets standing like this, and go, Special Forces, Special Forces, Special Forces. No, they don't do that either. You have to choose to want to be in the Special Forces. Nobody's going to tell you to do it. Nobody's going to stand on your shoulder and be like, hey, come on, you got to work a little harder. No, the people that went through the program and became the Special Forces team earned it. They wanted it. Okay. So this is the thing. This is where a performance library is starting to replicate some of the things you would expect from the military, the sports industry, which again, nobody tells these athletes they have to work out hard. Nope. None of them have to work hard. Those players that played in the game, nobody made them work out. They chose to work out. They chose on Saturdays to go practice on their own. On Sundays, they chose to eat a certain way. They chose not to go to a party. They chose not to drink that beer. They chose not to get in a fight. They chose those things. Okay. Choice is what shows you what people are made of. Fuel is a library for you to decide what you want to be made of. It's a skill building, but given to you by the best in the world at how to teach you this skill that you want to learn. You want to learn this skill? They're the best at teaching you it. And you get to apply it, right? And so, does that help answer the question, Cam? I know we kind of went around it.
Yeah, no, I think it goes back to when you're looking at that personal development aspect and you approach it from that angle, it's all internal rather than external. I think that come on. I mean, if we want to just call the podcast here, it's intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. I think that's really what we're talking about a lot, right?
Yes, 100%. The only reason we do anything is because of the meaning it has to us. So, like, okay, you have people on your team that aren't performing. When was the last time you asked them? This is, as a matter of fact, there's a chapter in a book I recently got published that I wrote in a leadership book. Maybe we'll bring it up before the end of this. If you have somebody on your team that's not that forget about how they're doing. When was the last time you asked every person on your team, are you doing your best? This is a key question to ask yourself and ask the people on your team. Here's why. Because are you doing your best? Before you give any feedback to this person, if I say yes, and I have been underperforming for 6 months, and I told you I'm doing my best, what are you going to do? Force me to be in special forces? No, that would be silly. Mm-hmm. But that's what expectations are like right now in business and around other people. Everyone should be at this level. What? Who said everyone should be at this level? There's some people that reach a level they can't go above. Mm-hmm. All the people that couldn't make it into the special forces, they're not bad people. It's not like Otis is standing there going, hey, idiots, haha. No. Hey, try again. Keep going if you want to. But if you aren't trying, there's a reason why there are people who perform in certain roles and people that don't perform in certain roles. And so if you ask somebody, are you doing your best? And they say yes, and they're underperforming, great. Compliment them. Thank them for being honest and open about this, and then help them find the next thing to do in life because they just told you they're doing their best. What are you going to... I can't jump to the rim. Okay, I'm 5'5". I can't even touch the rim. I want to be the center in the NBA. If a coach makes me the center in the NBA, that's the coach's mistake. That's not my mistake.
Yeah.
It's the coach's mistake. If you keep people on your team who are trying their best and cannot reach your level of standards, that's on you. Mm-hmm. But if you ask them, are you doing your best? And they say, I could do better. Okay. How? Here's access. And then here's the answer, right? Here's access. And as a coach, this is important. We're talking about leadership. What is the most important thing any leader should focus on in their role? Talent development. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing any leader. Otis, you were a leader of a very special unit. What was your focus?
Developing my team. I mean, that's my pride and joy is the success that those men had in their careers after I moved on. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the best, right? Like,
yeah. No, I was just gonna say same with rugby. That's all. That's you talking about are you doing your best? That's the conversation I have every practice with these guys. So it's like, hey, we got to make sure we're pushing on these things and make sure that it's something that you want. Because to your point, if you don't want it, then I don't really want you there either. It's not good for any of us to have you in that environment. Dad, you said this back with Grizzlies rugby. I say it all the time with our Wildcats. It's like, hey, talking to the forwards, you don't love scrums. I don't really need you. Hey, you can Alex. You can hang out. We need managers. If you want to set up some cones for me. I love the game. I want everyone to come be a part of it. But when we're talking about this job, if you don't love it, I don't need you. And Dad, I'm sure you had similar experience with that. Actually, I want to throw something to you, Dad. With that, how do you think, or where do you think the gap is of translating that into the business world? Because we could talk about how great military and sports worlds do with a lot of these things. And then it's not that great in a lot of other spots. What do you think that gap is, Dad, or your experience at least?
I think, and interestingly enough, I had this conversation with a guy this morning. It's an unclear understanding of why you are here, your purpose, and then a fear. And this is what keeps people from having that understanding and developing an understanding of it, is the fear of, well, what if that's not it? Because everything you do in life should be tied to your purpose. And if it's not, you're just an oxygen thief. And many, many people are going through the motions in life, going through the motions in their job. I can't wait till it's Friday, every other country song or whatever. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. All those sort of things all go back to the only reason I'm doing this is because I have to do this. I have to earn a paycheck because I bought a house. I have a family. I've had kids. So I have to do this. I don't want to do this. Well, my point is, then why the hell are you doing it? If you don't want to do something, if you don't want to work for that guy, you don't want to be in that career field, then change it. I mean, I'm sick and tired of people using that as a justification, because if somebody hired you to do a job that you don't like, I guarantee that somebody else will hire you to do a job that you do like, but you got to decide
Amen.
what that job is. And I think that's one of the beauties of this self development that you and just throw a shout out to Todd because I know him too, your co-founder.
Yeah.
You and Todd have come up with, with Fuel is, hey man, quit complaining and do something about it. Do something with your life because everybody here is here for a reason.
That's right.
Whether you believe in God, Allah, higher power, universe, don't believe in nothing. If you don't believe in nothing, you probably ain't listening to this show.
That's true.
Yeah. So you can go on over there and complain to somebody else. But you're here for a reason. So figure out what that is.
I want to add a layer there before you go, Alex, because I saw you getting ready. So one of my favorite quotes from Sturgill Simpson, who I referenced his music all the time, Dad. But the turtle, I got my tattoo. But no, he says this in one of his songs. You don't have to do a goddamn thing except sit around and wait to die. And it's this idea of, it's like, you don't have to do anything. And I think that's a key distinction to what you're saying, Dad, because you choose your purpose. You choose to go pursue it. And that choice is what creates that fuel. You are choosing to take that action because you actually want to. You don't have to go live with your purpose. You really don't. Shoot, there's a lot of folks out there who don't, right? But it's about making that choice, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Alex, about that intrinsic motivation. You make the choice, now you have that motivation to keep pursuing it, rather than if you just feel like you have to pursue your purpose, you're not going to go very far.
All right, Stoic quote. Sorry, you had to. You threw out Sturgill Simpson. I'm going with the Stoic. Epictetus said that many a man has nothing to show for his time on the earth but his age. Don't be that man.
Yep.
Don't be that man. Holy moly, that's a powerful one. That's and I got to tell you something, Cam. I'm going to challenge something that you just said. You said people choose their purpose. I'm going to challenge that one.
Choose to pursue the purpose. I think I misphrased that. Yeah. When you said that back to me, I was like, that doesn't sound right either.
Yeah. Choose to pursue their purpose. Yes. But choosing your purpose, I think, is an important one to talk about too. Your purpose, you're going to feel your purpose. You're not going to choose it. You're going to feel it. You're going to be like, oh, I got to go do that. Oh man. Like, I cannot not do that. That feels so good. This feels so bad, right? Your guidance system, hey, everyone listening, if you haven't heard this before, your guidance system is actually your body. It is the compass. You actually feel before you think. It's just because the mind is where things are computed. You're like, oh, I had a thought, but I actually started with a feeling and then turned into a thought. And then you have the thought, and then you have different feelings after your thoughts because, your ego can tell you how you should feel. But I think your purpose is something that it radiates from you. Then the question is exactly what Cam said. Do you have the courage to follow your purpose and pursue your purpose and not be where you said, Otis, I don't like it here, but I have to be. I want to say something about that too. If you have to, literally, truly have to, right? Like you really don't have a choice, which we know we all do, but let's say there's situations where you have to. Well, then commit to that. Commit to that purpose then. If you have to, then be the best version of you doing that thing you have to do. Why do it any other way since you have to? It's commit to that. Make that the thing you become best at because you have to anyway. But don't, if you don't have to, then, do you have the courage to follow that course? That's the real thing. Because, I think I don't know if this is completely true or not, but I think people are more scared of their success than their failure.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I'm gonna shift gears a little bit because I've always been fascinated by this, and I'm gonna throw it back to some good old days of growing up as a young lad, and I remember other mama watching soap operas. And Miss Suzanne still watches the soap operas. And we always make fun of the women for being drawn into that. And I'll also include Miss Jess and Miss Sierra in this also, because what do they love? Murder mysteries, nothing more than a modern day soap opera. What is it about that negative, almost violent voyeurism that is draws us, and because us men do it in a different way.
We do it by planting a flag on a field.
Yes. In a much more violent way, we tend to do it. What is it about that negative thing to watch? Because that also becomes who you are and what you expect. You're intaking it, even as a voyeur watching it, you're still intaking it. I'd love to explore that with you, Alex.
Man, this is such a cool question. I have opinions. I don't have proof for what I'm about to share, but I have opinions on this for sure. Or maybe there is some proof, but it's not scientifically backed, so please do your own research and things like that. Okay, you ready? We were savages 1 human ago. Let's be clear. Savages 1 human ago. In the early 1900s and back, freaking savages. World wars in ways that you can't even. If we think what's happening now is terrible, what was happening before was pure savagery. We were coming out of being animals into finally getting into society in a little bit of a different way. Every single thing was settled through violence. I'm not talking about for a year or two. I'm talking about for thousands of years leading up to this. Thousands of years of straight savagery. People, okay, here's an interesting fact. People have so the average age today is much higher than it was 100 years ago. And 100 years before that was even higher, right? Or lower than it was 100 years ago. Why is that? Here comes a little bit more savagery. I, who had my first child at age 13, am now a grandparent at 26, 27. And there is no Walmart. Okay? There is no corner store to go pick up some food. Food was limited, fixed. Anyway, that was my opinion to your question of why we're just so drawn to these cops and these murder mysteries. What's 60 Minutes? 60 Minutes is just a show about whose kid died and how they buried him somewhere. What? Still on the air. That's it. That's every story, Yeah.
I think so. I'll add one layer, and we're getting a bad echo. And I don't hear it anymore, so we'll just call it good. All right, there's some authenticity for you. But yeah, no, the layer I'd add to it is I think there's something where we all have that like innate fear of whether it's death or violence or those kind of things, because we are so plugged into that savagery like you're talking about, Alex. It's it's a big piece of us that we do have that fear, and I think it's almost like the kind of horror movie effect, where it's like you want to feel the fear, like just safe enough. Like Alex, I don't want to die, but you could scare the heck out of me. Like it's like those kind of things where it's like for some reason that scratches part of the monkey brain, or makes you feel alive or whatever with that. And I think there's an interesting thing of, is that innate to us to some extent? I think that's true, just like you're saying, Alex. It's a big piece of us. But then I think we have to be conscious about that. I'm going to connect two of the points we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. I was talking about UFC, right? UFC is freaking crazy violence. That's gladiator. You talk about savagery. That's the modern gladiators, right?
100%.
It's crazy to watch. What's a lot crazier is trying to fight somebody outside of that. And I think there's this weird thing where it's like you almost need a little bit of the spectacle. You need to bottle it up and let it be there a bit. And then with that, you can move on and we can have these other things. But letting that bleed over is a lack of a conscious choice to me. It's the murder mysteries are everything now, and everywhere I'm looking for all that kind of stuff instead of like, look, this is just a thing that I enjoy. There's a part of me, whatever the monkey brain, lizard brain, whatever it is, there's a thing there. I enjoy it, and keeping it separate. rather than letting it bleed into everything with that. Because I think that's how you get people who, want to take the UFC example, want to pick fights because somebody planted a flag on your field and those kind of things. Because you see people doing that, you're like, oh, that's normal. I'll just roundhouse kick this guy, even though he's wearing a helmet. I never got why football players punch each other. It drives me crazy. But there's things like that where it's like you don't recognize the separation at all. I think that I experienced, I've talked with a bunch of guys I played rugby with who went through a similar kind of thing where it's like you stop playing rugby and you're like, oh, I don't get to beat up people anymore. Well, you don't just go start beating up other people. Like, it's like you have to recognize inside yourself, like, oh, that stays over here, that doesn't come out. And I think there's a little bit of ownership that has to go into those kind of things. So I'll throw that back to you, Dad. You round out our two analyses there.
Well, I love the freshness of the violence because there's a lot of truth to that. There's also a there, but for the grace of God go I, and there's been some psychological studies on the why a scary movie, why do we rubberneck at an accident. I remember reading this one article about doing a test with monkeys, literally not just monkey brains, but monkeys, where they put a sack, a pillowcase with a snake in it in the monkey pen, and the first monkey goes up and he opens it up and he looks inside and goes, "Oh shit!" and runs away. Well, then the next monkey goes, "Oh, I wonder what that was," and goes up and does the same thing and goes, "Oh shit." And then the first monkey goes back and goes and looks at it again, goes, "Oh shit, it's still a snake." And it is this really interesting thing because what we're doing is we're pushing our brain to that edge, that limit of I could die. The mortality realization is what we're pushing our brain, the there, but for the grace of God, go I sort of thing. When I drive by that accident and go, damn, that sucks, sort of thing. The horror movie going, golly, I'm glad that's fake, sort of thing. And this whole thing of we're pushing ourselves to that mortality, that realization of we are mortal and this can happen to us, and that fear factor. Plus, you know what? You get a little bit of a adrenaline junkie hit out of that. That scares me.
Because we need it. Because it's evolutionary. You need to look for those negative things because the negative things are what kill you. Like and then to kind of bring it back to social media, actually, then it's up to us, as the evolved form of humans, to then work on those things. To your point about how savage we all were, Alex. That's kind of our agreement around civilization is to not do those things, and that we have agreements around those kind of things. That's how we built what we have as people. I think that there's a similar kind of thing of we have this anxiety because it's natural to us. We want to look for those negative things because negative things are what can hurt us the most. And so the choice comes from then being conscious about how much of that you're taking in and what your relationship is with that. Right. I'll hit you with a good example, Dad. You growing up, you would talk about, like preparation, those kind of things, being safe, protecting your family, those kind of things. Right. There's a difference between being ready for if somebody breaks into your house and listening to a bunch of documentaries or watching a bunch of documentaries about people breaking the house and getting murdered, right? Like, you don't need to see every single one of those to be able to protect your family. There's a actionable level where it's like, hey, people can break in. I should have cameras. I should have an alarm. I should have these different things. And then at that point, then it's like, okay, hey, I am done here, because otherwise you are just feeding that anxiety. Same things happens on social media. You just feed it and feed it and feed it because there's no cost associated with it until it, I guess, manifests itself into a mental illness or something. But yeah, Alex, I saw you had a thought there. I'll let you go.
No, I was just agreeing with everything that you're saying. I think, it's that, yeah, the we need it for learning. We need it for survival, right? Contrast is why we exist. Contrast is why we choose this over that. So you need to have those things available. But like you said it yourself, to completely immerse yourself into something that negative and then wonder why you can't sleep at night, why you're on medications, why you have problem keeping relationships, and it's yeah, when you because why football players hit people in the face while they're wearing helmets, and you're like, that's ridiculous. That's why people that watch those things consecutively act ridiculous, because when I'm in the football field and somebody pisses me off, I'm trained to punch you in the face. My mind, I forget that you're wearing a helmet that's going to break my hand. And so, same thing. I forget that I'm not watching a murder mystery, but it feels exactly the same. And so I'm going to do the thing that I need to be scared. I need to be nervous. I need to be stressed. I need to be anxious. That's why they punch each other in the helmets, because that's just what their mind says that's the natural reaction. When somebody feeds themselves all that negativity, their natural reaction is stress, pain, anger, all of that.
It's a manifestation of what you've been watching.
Always.
It's self-fulfilling, and I'll, I was trying to remember the name of the movie, Warriors. Yes. So I'm throwing this back to high school, and we had moving pics with sound. I know that's hard for some people to believe that we had that. And they were in color too. But there was this great movie. And if you really want to go down a rabbit hole of cultural craziness, it's a movie called Warriors. And it was about a gang in New York and all these gangs in New York, blah, blah, blah. But what I really wanted to share about that was the reaction that me and my buddies had when we walked out of that movie.
Yes.
It's, let's go kick some ass. Let's go find
literally, right?
And beat them up. Yeah. It was literally, that was the reaction that we all felt when we came out of that movie theater. We're looking around, it's like, come on, we're just like the Warriors. We're going to go beat somebody up. We're going to be the good guys by beating people up. And what I'll throw down the gauntlet right now for our watchers, our viewers. I guess they're not watchers. Our viewers and our listeners right here. Eliminate the negative things that you watch.
Change your life.
Change your life. I cut out news a long time ago, watching the news, Fox and doing the CNN and the websites and all that stuff a long time ago. And then I found myself, because I was around some buddies that watch it a lot, right around election time, drawn back into that. And man, did I have a negative attitude about things that were going on. It didn't matter whether it was a freaking dirty truck or somebody cutting me off. I found myself going into this negative, like, that son of a, it's like, holy crap. All because I started watching that negative feed again.
Negative news.
Yeah.
And I'll add there, talking about, I got to admit, with Warriors, I'm not as sure with this, but I think there's an interesting thing without, I'm going to try to be quick with this. As movies change and, the way we approach things change, the modern heroes and the modern villains are very complicated. It's usually they're 50-50, maybe 51-49 in a lot of ways, right? Where it's like, Alex is just barely a hero. Like, he is so freaking close to the edge, but we love those characters because they're mixed just like we are. They're complicated, all these kind of things. But then what happens is, if you love that character too much, you start loving those negative things, to your point, Dad. You start latching onto those things. You start looking for the fight. You don't think about how, well, they were just trying to take care of each other. That's the lesson. Fighting is not the lesson. Taking care of your friends, taking care of your neighborhood is the lesson, right? There's a difference to that. And I think it goes back to, and I'd say a similar thing to the news that you're talking about, Dad. It goes back to, again, being able to consciously understand what you're viewing and how you are reacting to it. You talk about taking out negativity. If you completely just put your head in the sand and don't know any news on anything, you're a fool. You're just as big of a fool as somebody who knows every little thing that's going on, right? You have to be able to say, look, I can see what's happening. I know who won the presidential election. I know all these different things. And that happened, and I understand it, and there's negative stuff there, and I'm leaving that out. And because I'm going to focus on my own life. And recognizing what that is, same kind of thing. A horror movie, those kind of things, right? If you are looking at that and you're constantly going and you're taking all that anxiety in, that's a negative place to be in. And you're going to have negative reactions with the folks around you because of that. But you can go and say, hey, look, this is separate. I do not need to start trying to fight people because I watched Warriors or whatever it is, right? You can make that distinction. And then that allows you to, I think, live in a balanced world. Because I think the hard cuts, I think, I don't know, I go back and forth on this. I think there's a little bit of a fallacious idea between the hard cuts because it denies a certain aspect of what's really going on in the mechanism, right? We're looking for that anxiety stuff because there's something in us that wants those. Doesn't mean you need to feed it constantly, but that also doesn't mean you need to completely ignore your anxiety. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I would say, due to what you were saying, Otis, a second ago, one of the reasons the name of the company is Fuel is because what you put in, you get out, right? That's what it is. And so I think, so I'm with you, Otis. I've cut out news completely too, but I still know what's going on in the world. I just don't get it the same way. I just don't receive it. And if I'm getting it even from a news source, I'm headline watching. And then I'll do some of my own research if the headline was important enough. Or I'll ask people that I like and trust and respect and ask them some questions if they heard about anything and what are their thoughts. But I do completely agree that eliminating the regular consumption of negative content, no matter how it comes, do not just place it on digital. Do not just place it on news. There are people in your life that you need to not be around anymore. Okay? Remember that, right? Like it's not just, I need to cut out negative news. What about the negativity just in your physical life, right?
Yep.
Truly, what you put in, you will get out. That is, look, everything changes except the laws. The laws of what? The laws of life in the universe. Okay? They don't change. Everything else will change forever. I know that because that is how the universe is made. I know that because being children of Earth, I see everything on Earth change. Every animal, every plant, everything constantly. That's the only thing, right? Everything will change except for the laws. And the law is what you put in, you get out. I cannot plant an apple tree today and get a banana tree. Not going to happen. I don't know what happened with the platypus. That's just a weird thing. I don't know. Okay, I can't explain that.
It's Australia. That's how you explain it.
See, yeah, that's right. It's and you know about the Warriors. I'm wondering, Otis, do you think the leather vest is coming back?
Yeah. Well, I just might. The shirtless leather vest.
The shirtless leather. Did you, when you went out there, protecting your neighborhood, did you put on a leather vest?
No, because mom and dad wouldn't pay for it. So
there it is.
It may have been on my Christmas wish list that year. I don't know.
Yeah. Either that or the the hats that they wore then too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's my thought. I mean, really, again, it's when we stop at the heart of it all is when we stop comparing ourselves. That's so expectations and comparison, right, is probably the two root sources for all the fighting, negativity, shame, blame, hatred, all of that, right? Comparison and expectations. You want to live a lot more of a free life, of an open life, of a peaceful life. Stop setting expectations. I'll ask everyone on this call. It's a fun exercise I started to do like a month and a half ago with people. If you look back at your life, we play a movie back of your life up to this point, up to today. The things go how you planned. Every single, Cam, everyone, 100% of people. Then stop setting expectations and just be curious about life. Just be if you're curious, it's much easier than if you have expectations, because no one's life has ever turned out that I've spoken to so far the way they planned. It just turned out the way it did. So, that's
that's
nugget.
That's a great way to think about it, and how you do that, and how you look at things in that sense of accepting it as it is and controlling it what you can. And one of the things that I control with this show is what I learned, because I never know, which is an interesting thing because I can control it, but I don't know what it's going to be. And I got a couple of them, but got to have one. And I think I like this one is choices is what shows you what people are made of. And I'll expand on that just one further step. Your choices in life are based on the values you hold, whether you've defined them knowingly or not. All your decisions that you make in life are based on your values, and those values are the choices, and that's what drives it. So that's what I learned. That's a great way to think about it. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
For me, I think that Alex, what you're saying there at the end, talking about expectations and how dangerous they can be, it reminds me of something. And actually, I said this on a leadership interview I was having this morning, talking with a new friend Al about this, and I cannot think of where I heard this, and I'm going to need to Google it, or maybe you said it, or some. I have no idea where I got this, but and actually, folks don't know this. This is the announcement. I had my baby girl 3 weeks ago. At the time of recording.
Congrats!
And thank you. And
you too.
The exciting thing, or the really interesting thing, rather, it's exciting too, but that is it. I saw so much as people try to script things. And it's like, well, what about this? And you have all these rules, all these different parenting approaches. And I don't know where the heck I got this, but the nugget that I latched onto was the idea of it's like every kid is so different that you can't really, if you try to script things, you try to put expectations onto stuff, then you're just going to be frustrated. But if you go in and you just read the situation and see what they need, then you're going to be able to parent them the way that they actually need, and you're going to be more successful with that. Same thing goes with all these other things we're talking about. If I go to rugby practice today and I'm like, we're going to do this, and I'm cracking the whip on those boys, making them do all these kind of things, it's not going to go well. The expectations are going to ruin it. Trying to script it is going to ruin what I'm doing. If I go out there and I say, as one of the leaders on this team, what do I need to do for the next 2 hours? And I'm observing everyone around me and say, okay, I could work over here. I could work on this, or I need to fade back, whatever it is. If you try to script that, you're not going to recognize those opportunities. So it's kind of a little bit of that, just, amor fati. Let things go, recognize them as you go, and adjust with it.
Awesome. Alex, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
I learned that there's a difference between having a purpose and pursuing it, right? There's a difference, because just having it is one thing, and then having the courage to pursue it, as we discussed, is another. And I thought that was a really cool lesson that came out of this. Because I do often hear people say, hey, you need to have a purpose. Okay, but it's more than that. Once you have it, you want to pursue it. And that's where the courage comes in. And those of you that are leading people, get to know what the purpose is of everyone on your team, and then do your best to help them get there. It's all you have to do. Nobody wants to be on a team where you want them to hit their numbers. They will hit their numbers if you help them get what they need or what they want. They will hit them on their own. You don't have to ask them. Again, nobody asks someone to be a special forces. You choose to be special forces. Nobody asked Patrick Mahomes to be a quarterback. He chose to be a quarterback. And as leaders, you want to find what they've chosen, and then you want to support them and create an environment for them to thrive. No one in sports, no one in the military just becomes that. They have an environment where thriving is part of it. Not forced. You want to thrive? Every opportunity is here for you. Nothing is stopping you. Your choice. You can thrive. We're going to support you in whatever direction you want to go. But you got to make a choice. And then we'll support you. And that's what you have to do in your roles as leaders if you're listening to this. If they've chosen that. Patrick Mahomes isn't standing in the pocket going, I wish I was an attorney. No way. Okay.
Nobody on the other side of the line of scrimmage are wishing he was an attorney.
100%. Yeah. Every other team. But I'm telling you right now, the person in accounting, the person in sales, the person in marketing, the person in customer success for you, if they wish they were a nurse, you're going to see it in their performance.
Yep.
And it's your job to discover, are they a nurse or are they an accountant? And if they're an accountant, what is it for? What are they looking to accomplish? Not for you. Forget about your goals for your company and yourself or whatever. What are they trying to do? Oh, you're trying to buy a new house. That's your motivation. Okay, great. Fantastic. Let's work on getting that for you. How are we going to get there? Well, I need to double my sales if I want to get there. Oh, fantastic. Okay, now we're talking. How important is that mission for you of owning a new home? It's very important. Well, let's talk about how we get you there. I'm going to help you. And when they stop performing, you just ask them, have you changed your goal? Have you changed have you changed it? No, I still want. Well, you're not acting like you, right? It just goes back to nobody makes you special forces. But once you're there, right? Once you've chosen to be there, we're going to keep you accountable. Once you've said why you chose to be here, we're going to keep you accountable. So that's what I learned, that you can have a purpose, but pursuing the purpose is where it's at.
Awesome. Alex, how do folks find you and learn more about Fuel?
Yeah. So you can go to myfuel.io. Okay. And everything you need will be there. If you're listening to this in the month of December, very important month, we're calling it $1 December. Any member that joins in December, this is to fuel your New Year's resolution. Give yourself the positivity to fuel your resolution for the new year. $1 for the entire month of unlimited access in December. So depending on when you're listening. And if you're part of a big organization and you're listening, reach out to us. We do some really special programs for large groups that also infiltrate to their families. So learn about that, because it's not about just being the best version of you that's provided for by your employer to the employee. What about that trickling down to the family, right? That same tools. We have all these corporate tools that only if you're working you get access to. No, now let's let families have access to the good tools as well. So myfuel.io on LinkedIn. You can find me. I'll give you the link, but it's linkedin.com/Fuel Inc. INC Fuel Inc. You will find me there, and that's the best way to connect. And if you're in the military, okay, I want to put this all over your website. You know that, Otis, and we want to share this. Fuel is no cost to military, active or retired military. No one deserves to be a better version of themselves more than the military heroes that serve this country. So myfuel.io/veterans, and all the veterans and all the military can sign up there anytime, no cost, 365 days of access at no cost. That's everything.
Awesome. Hey, Alex, man, as I was expecting, this has been awesome. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with us.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful, and I love the dynamic between you and your son, and I love the passion you all put behind this. It's a very selfless passion. Definitely replace doom scrolling and negativity with a show like this.
Thanks. Cam, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Alex Kutsishin, for joining us today. I think I got that right. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X. Don't give it the thumbs up. You'll break it again. On YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.